remarkable, successful 30-year titan in business with having multiple businesses that generate multiplied millions of dollars.
And if that plan happens to be to build $1 million company, which I can help you do.
But he's humble. He's a man of God. He's a family man.
The world's news organizations are built on everything but positivity.
He is an influential entrepreneur and business speaker for over 30 years.
I've got to forecast. I've got to pronounce. I've got to project. I've got to share with you my ideas, my vision, my goals for not only myself, but for you.
That's why he's came up with his incredible concept of taking and creating a platform for people that are wired differently.
And you got to understand that your habits of your person and your habits of your business and your habits of your spirituality have to lead to the North Star of who you are. We need to figure out who we want to be in life. Good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. Look at the day is here. We did it again. I got to tell you, we got to get it done today. We got to build today. We got to build today. I titled today, Build. What can we build with these 7 principles of Solomon? I spent the last 2 days talking about my man Solomon. You know, the deeper I got into Solomon, the more disturbing it got. I mean, literally, I'm happy with Solomon. I'm happy with the wisest man in the world. I'm happy with the wealthiest man in the world. I figured out that he was triple the times Elon Musk, the Elon ever would or could be. I learned a lot of things about Solomon in Ecclesiastes. I'm really excited to share all this with you, but I want to get to the 7 principles that King Solomon's taught us through Ecclesiastes. It's this whole thing that we're trying to do here to make money, grow you spiritually, and grow you personally. And I feel like the last 2 days I have been sidetracked for good reasons. I went on to some of these tangents of maybe even Israel and the Palestinians, and I can't stop thinking about it. I got the king of the Jews. I got the king that's the third king of Israel on my mind. I've got all the bombs going off and the people and the babies dying and all that in my mind. How can I not have Solomon and Israel and all these things going? I got messages from all of you, some of you. Thank you for the message yesterday. I was thinking that maybe I went into some uncharted waters, but you know, that's kind of what we do here. We just kind of keep moving and we do what God tells us to do. We think God's telling us to do. And so I wanted to talk this morning. So the funny thing about this morning is, you know, I sometimes I feel like I'm a big shot and I'm probably more important than I should feel that I am, which brings me to the verse of Ecclesiastes Chapter 1, verse 1, vanity, vanity, it's all damn vanity. Everything's all just one big damn vanity. Speaking of vanity, can you see that right there? Making the mess in my, right there. It's a purse. It's my briefcase. I got to move it. It's still in the way. I'm plugged in. I can't. I can't. It's hang on. Still making a mess of my screen. Anyways, distractions. So here we are. So listen. So King Solomon was a bad dude. King Solomon left us 7 lessons on how to grow our business, grow our families, grow us personally, spiritually, and profitably. And so I want to share those with you, and I'm giving them to you in order. And I've only really got through the first 2, but I was just thinking about kind of what a big deal I am sometimes. So I thought, you know, let's build on this and let's have some fun with it. But what happens to me all the time when I start feeling like I'm kind of a big deal, I come home. I come home and I've got these kids. I got Courtney, I got Sailor, I got Olivia, I got Kara. Kara's just recently moved, but I miss her already. But, you know, sometimes you're wondering, like, why can't I ever have peace to myself? When are these kids ever going to get out of the house? When's this ever going to change? And then when they leave, it's like, oh man, I miss my kids. Where's all that noise? But the interesting thing is like I come home like a big deal, like I think I'm a king. I'm like King Solomon or something. I'm so wise. I'm the guy, right? I think it's important that we feel good about ourselves. But I'm always brought down a little because I go into the kitchen and I want to roam around for food. And here's the thing, I feel like I paid for all the food. I think that I provide for, I'm doing all this. But the thing is, the kids don't care. I mean, they don't care. Like I go in there, and last night I'm tired. I helped Tracy. She's been working late. I'm working late. And then I get to the kitchen, and then I look for some food, and then literally, at least 4 items in the refrigerator that I want to eat, right? That I paid for has signs on all these foods. There was some bacon that was made, and I went over to grab the bacon. As I grabbed the lid of the bacon says, "Dad, this is my bacon. Do not eat." Then I move over to the cottage cheese. I think I'm going to have some cottage cheese and some mandarins, and there's a sign on that, "Dad, this is my cottage cheese. Do not eat." And I move my way down the pecking order, and I see some other kind of reasonably healthy food, and I'm going to grab it. It's like a leftover container of some chicken wings or something like that, and I see a Sharpie. A Sharpie wrote, "Dad, this is mine. Do not eat." I'm literally striking out. So I go to the 4th food item, which is not healthy for me at all. It's a piece of tin foil, roll over some brownies, and I'm just so starving. And I'm going to grab the brownies, and I look at the top of the brownies, which I paid for, and literally a gold pen that looked just like this. The pen that I signed, the great book, Your Will Be Done. Sitting next to the tin foil, it said brownies. "Dad, these are my brownies. Do not eat any of these brownies. Love," little like a heart, "Livy." With my pen. She wrote it with my pen on my tin foil with brownies I paid for in my kitchen in my cooking area. Come on now. I'm wondering if King Solomon ever had to deal with the likes of any of that. We're going to talk about, I know it's a sidetrack, but I just got to tell you, I want you to feel for me a little bit. Give your coach some mercy. Some of the Beatitudes, push it my way. Come on, give me some. Blessed are those that have mercy on Todd. He's got a tough life, not getting the love, not getting the respect. Well, I'm going to go over these 7. Ecclesiastes chapter 11, verses 1 through 10. We got through 2 of them. But I got to give you another sidetrack, because what's bringing me to that story, what's bringing me to that message, what's bringing me to the wisdom here that the supposedly smartest man, and God didn't say he was the smartest. He said he was the wisest. I think there's a lesson in there, and we're going to break that down probably tomorrow. But here's the thing. King Solomon started out Ecclesiastes chapter 1 with a verse I want to read to you right here out of I'm going to read a verse first. Firstly, I'm going to read it out of King James. For all you business people out there, you need to understand the words of the preacher. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verse 1. This is King Solomon reflecting on his whole life of wackiness. I mean, like, he had everything given to him, and he was so wise, he quadrupled it from, we came up with 300 billion from his father David in today's money, just in silver bars. And then we realized that if we multiplied what the Bible told us that he really had, he's about 3 trillion right now, and the Elon was only 288, so he's crushing him. But the wisdom gave him wealth and gave him popularity, man, gave him all these things. God gave it to him because God asked him, "What do you want? I'll give it to you. Anything you want." He asked for wisdom. He was wise enough to ask for wisdom, and gave him. And I started thinking, man, what a great answer to the question. He asked for wisdom. But I'm just kind of wondering, like if this, Job had some bad stuff happen to him, and God just parlayed and made a message out of that, right? And so is Solomon really somebody we should celebrate? Is Solomon somebody that we should really celebrate because he really did ask the right question? I think he did. He answered the right way. But, what is the lesson that God gave him from this wisdom? Because when Solomon died, the wisest man in the world died, not a poor man, but a broken man. And it's no secret that at the end of his life, when he's writing Ecclesiastes, yeah, I have trouble with that word, so just forgive me the rest of this lesson. But he says, the preacher, the words of the preacher, the son of David, king of Jerusalem, verse 2 says, chapter 1 of the Bible book that he wrote to be teaching us lessons in the Old Testament of his life is some almost 100 years, it says that vanity of vanities, saith the preacher, vanity of vanities, all is vanity, right? And so why would he start it like that? What is the business lesson here? What is the life lesson here? What is the spiritual lesson here? And I just got to tell you that, man, I've been going to school on Solomon. I can't even get to the 7 tips because I'm so enamored with the idea of the wisest man in the world having 700 wives, 300 concubines. How wise is that? I mean, like, I can't handle 1 children in my house taking my food. I mean, literally, my food, they're calling their food, and I'm going on a rant this morning, but at the end of the day, how can one man be the wisest man in the world and have 700 wives? Can't wrap my mind around it, let alone 300 concubines, which I didn't want to go into any of what that means or how it means. The stress of this. You're supposed to celebrate with me. I want you to feel good. I want to pull this together about right now. That's what I got to do. So I was thinking, let's build on these 7. So I thought, well, why don't I tell you what I'm building right now? Let's see. I'm building something right now. King Solomon, Todd. I don't know King Solomon, but I want you to understand I'm building things. King Solomon was known for building and wisdom and building the first temple. So here's what I'm building outside, just to tie in the topic. See all those? Those are my tiki hut logs. I'm building another tiki hut on my property here in Florida. And those of you coming to the Tiki Hut retreat are going to be able to see this amazing tiki, man. We have one out by the water, but this one here I'm building out in my driveway. It's going to be an amazing, almost 100 by 40, 100 by 25 outdoor carport, party port. Look at that bad boy. Those things those are close to 18 feet tall. The ceiling is going to be 10 feet tall. Right? I'm building something, right? We're all building something. I want you to see what I'm building, not like literally metaphorically. I know I'm showing you something I'm building, but I want you to know I'm building something wired differently. I'm building you profitably, spiritually, and personally. And I want you to tie in this idea. Look at these posts going in the ground. You have to have a foundation. You have to start somewhere. King Solomon had to start somewhere. He had a big running start, but he built something, right? The wisest people in the world are always building something. What are you building now? You can see how the roof is coming up there right here. And this morning I went out and I took a few photos just because I thought I would show this to you so you can see how the roof line's coming along. You can see how big it's going to be. You can see here. There's a good shot of it. There's a wide shot of it. Look at that. It's going to have 5 easy carport parking spots. I'm super excited about that. What are you building today? King Solomon was a builder. I am a builder. You're a builder. So I want to tie 2 things together this morning. The 7 tips or traits or markers of King Solomon in building your business life and business career. And I want to touch on our prayers for the innocent that are being slain in the ways of war right now in Israel and Palestine. You know, our prayers, our ideas, our thoughts. I know a lot of us are feeling guilty about like our life is so good. But I gotta tell you that our life is good and it should stay good. But we need to understand that King Solomon put a lot of this here in front of us, and he ended up actually dying an old man, lost over half of his kingdom to his nemesis. His son was only able to keep 2 of roughly 12 of the tribes, right, under his rule or his family rule, all because he let all these married women come into his life with different backgrounds. The kingdom couldn't stay whole because the wisest man in the world went out and married 700. Let's just forget the concubines for a moment, because I don't think the Bible tells us that he built idols for the concubines, but I know that it tells us that he went out and did exactly what God said not to do. Do not marry outside of this nation. And he went out and married like 700 women, many from other nations, many from other different Christian or religious beliefs, many other thoughts. And so he built idols within his own buildings, within his own home, for each of these wives that didn't want to worship God, our Father who art in heaven. They wanted to worship other deities. And so he bifurcated his household with all these other different belief structures. It created inward fighting between gods that didn't get along with each other, nations that didn't get along with each other. And so he's in this position of 700 wives, many different beliefs. And at the end of his life, he loses the kingdom. Now, the reason I bring this up is because he was the wisest man God ever created. So the Bible tells us. So really, how wise are we? If that's the wisest man in the world, and we're literally watching all this happen in America, we're literally seeing the same thing happen in our country, from what the Bible saw happen not only in Rome, but in the early ancient years of Solomon. You know, our hearts, the Beatitudes in the New Testament is what we're really to learn from now, is that to be clear, to be pure, right? To be focused. And I'm just questioning whether King Solomon, I'm not questioning, the Bible tells us he wasn't focused at the end of his life. He had too many wives, too many people in his ear, too many people he's trying to please. He had a good heart, and he's just trying to make sure everybody got along. Lost the kingdom, right? But he was wealthy, he was successful, and in his time, and here's what he asked for: wisdom. God gave him wisdom in his time. He helped him become these things. But I wanted to start off with this morning with Ecclesiastes 1. After all this is done, he writes this book about his life and how he pushed back against God and what he learned. And he basically summarizes everything I'm going to tell you what he has to learn here, and we'll get to a couple more of these points. He starts off with the very beginning of, if you only read one chapter in Ecclesiastes, this is the chapter to read. Chapter 1. If you only read one or two verses, these are 2 verses, because he summarizes it all after a life of 100 years, 700 wives, 300 concubines, more money than anybody's ever amassed in the history of the planet, the world, probably ever will see. He already did it. Lived the life of anything he ever wanted. And he says, as he reflects on the end of his life, in the beginning of this book, he says, the very thing I want to teach you is this: the words of the preacher himself. I believe he's talking about the son of David himself, which we know he was David the king in Jerusalem. He was the 3rd king. David was the 2nd king. The 1st king was King Saul, right? He says, verse 2, vanity of vanities, saith the preacher. Vanities of vanities, all is vanity. King James. We're going to get to the 7 business points. But we're doing this show backwards, because at the end of his life, he just says this: vanity of vanities, saith the preacher. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. Let me read, like, vanity of vanities, saith the preacher. Vanity of vanities, all is just vanity. So let me read this to you in the New Testament. And so maybe that you'll understand, because vanity, the Hebrew meaning of vanity, or the word translated, the word in Hebrew that we took vanity from, is vanishing. So vanishing, right? So the New Testament, the New International Version says, the word of the teacher, son of David, same word, king of Jerusalem, right? Grandson of Saul, right? Verse 2 says, meaningless, says the teacher. So like when I read in NIV, I feel like it's more friendly. Vanity, meaningless. So King James would be vanity. New Testament's a little easier for everyone to understand. It's like meaningless. meaningless, saith the teacher. Utterly meaningless. Everything is meaningless. I kind of like King James better. But what he's saying here is, after I get through all these tips and I get through all this stuff I'm going to teach you, because we are stuck in this world, right? We are misfits in this world because we're stuck here. And I'm going to get you these lessons. And I just say, Todd, my wife would absolutely be just so peeved at me, man. She's like, you spend too much time on nonsense. Get to the details. All the details are caught up here, right here, because at the end of the day, I want you to understand, meaningless, meaningless, meaningless. It's all just meaningless. Vanity, vanity, vanity. It's all just vanity. Vapors, vapors, vapors. It's just all vapors, right? Because this idea of everything that we're going to go through here in life isn't going to matter 100, 200, 300, 1,000 years from now, other than if we are not close to God. I think King Solomon realized that he may very well have been the richest, the wisest, but he's looking back at all these concubines. He's looking at all these wives. He's looking back at all this waste. He's looking back at all this stuff he could have done better. And it was all in vain. All his popularity was in vain, because at the end of the day, his kingdom was lost. Raban took only 2 of the 12 tribes, and the rest was taken over by, I don't know his name. I did know it at one time, but I don't know it right now. So I want you to think about that as I teach you these. These are things you need to know, but I'm not saying that you don't need them because it ain't going to matter someday. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that when you start to learn these points, you need to understand that these biblical points for your spiritual, personal, and profitable growth all make a lot of sense, because we have to do well on this earth. We want to share our story on this earth. We want to have our market dominating position on this earth. But don't forget the fact that the wisest man in the world looked back on his life and he looked at this whole profitability situation. He looked at all this profitability piece of it, and he says, vanity, vanity, vanity. It's all just vanity. It's meaningless, meaningless. It's just meaningless. Vapor, vapor, vapor. It's all vapors, because he didn't put enough focus on the personal and the spiritual growth. And that's why I want to talk to you about you as your functional coach, right? I'm like, I don't want to be. I'm not saying I'm wiser than Solomon, but I'll tell you one man that was wiser than Solomon. Jesus. Right? And so like the New Testament says, okay, Old Testament, that made a lot of sense, but now I'm here and there's a new sheriff in town, and I'm dying for all your sins. I'm dying for you to love others, because before Jesus was here, the most important thing you could probably be was wise with God, but now Jesus has come. The most important thing you could be now is forgiving, merciful, graceful. We flipped the script in love. I think the number one thing now is love, and I have a hard time with it. I digress. It's not easy to love the Palestinians. It's not easy to love your neighbor because he's dropping bombs and suing you over borders and fence lines and all kinds of crap. Like, it's not easy. Listen, I know. Thank God my wife's not listening. I'm telling you, man, these messages are for reals. Solomon is the path. Solomon was brilliant. He was wise, and God took him through all of this wisest stuff on earth, and he told him all these things only so that he could give us one verse at the end of his 100 years in life or so, one verse from being the wisest, most wealthiest man to ever walk the planet. He is better, smarter, bigger than the Elon. Come on. And I'm focusing in on chapter 11, Ecclesiastes 1 through 10, but I'm preaching on 1 through 6, but I'm all going back to chapter 1, where King Solomon surmised it all in one thing. Before I get to you, I want you to understand the words of the teacher, Solomon, the son of David, the king of Jerusalem, the grandson of Saul, right? This is what he's saying. Chapter 2, he's saying, meaningless, meaningless, says the teacher, utterly meaningless. Everything is meaningless. So what he's saying that is everything that Todd Saylor may be telling you in his Facebook and all his hype videos and all that stuff he's trying to do to get you whipped up to buy stuff because he wants to help improve your life. I am. But it's meaningless if we don't really have our focus on God. Right? So if I'm truly a functional coach, And I'm going to give you 7 business lessons from King Solomon. Saul was his grandfather. David was his father. King Solomon. I got to tell you how he ended his life. I got to tell you what he said. The most important thing is what he started off Ecclesiastes with is this: meaningless, 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 saith the teacher, utterly meaningless, everything meaningless, without God as your focus, without continued pursuit of God. Don't marry 700 wives. Don't marry 700 gods. Don't marry 700 other ideas. Only marry one, and that is God himself. And now he sent Jesus to die on our cross to forgive us for those things so that we can get past them, get past ourselves. 5 minutes left. Vanity, vanity, vanity. It's all just vanity. Meaningless, meaningless, meaningless. It's all just meaningless. I can't even get food in my own refrigerator. Kids, they put "do not feed the animal" on food in my house. I mean, I can't even. I'm like, it's 26 minutes. You guys got stuff to do. Like, I think I'm just annoying all of you because I've literally, number one, Solomon's number one rule, 7 rules to become great at business and wealth, right? You got to give to get, right? We talked about that one. Let's just rehearse it right now. You got to give to get, and you got to take. You got to give to get. Like, you got to give of yourself. You got to do those things. You got to get out there. It'll come back. And I remember vanity, vanity, vanity. It's all just vanity. Number 2 was diversify in investments. He says, just don't send your ships out to get wheat and bread to one spot. Send 7 ships out. Don't just do wheat and bread. Do TV, do computer chips, do marble, do gold. Spread it out. Do one thing great first, but spread it out. That's the Wire Differently business model. If I'm your coach, I'm going to teach you how to have multiple businesses. I'm going to teach you how to make money with reoccurring revenue, not just transactional one-time sales revenue, right? Diversify investment, diversify in business structure. Number 3, we're going to start with number 3 tomorrow. Don't worry about what you can't change, because I'm just stuck on that, because I can't change Israel. I can't change Palestine. I can't change the fact that my kids won't even let me eat my own damn food. So I got to go with it, right? Man, I got to go with it. And I love going with it because I love my kids. But didn't we learn yesterday that sometimes that we're just called to love, and then that order from God catches up? Our emotions finally, our love catches up to the order of God. Well, that's how I feel about my kids. I'm not loving them when they tell me I can't eat my chicken wings, I can't eat my cottage cheese, I can't eat the brownies, I can't eat the bacon. I mean, everything but the bacon. I can make it through, but if they say no to the bacon, I just blow it. Man, I'm like, it's my damn bacon. I love bacon. How can you cut me off of bacon? Vanity, vanity, vanity. It's just all vanity. I had a blast today. I just want to tell you, I love you guys. Don't worry about what you can't change. We can't worry about those things. We got to move forward. We got to understand what Solomon's number 1 lesson to us was. Ecclesiastes 1, verse 1 and 2. Vanity, vanity, vanity. It's all just vanity. If not God first, then this is all a waste. It's all a mess. I need redirected. I'm taking the lessons. I hope you're getting these lessons. We're going to hit these tomorrow, and we got a special guest coming on Fridays. We're doing Friday special guests. I love you guys. I know I'm entertaining. I know I'm giving you guys some fun things to think about. I know. Lots of people this morning. I get fired up, comments everywhere. Listen, don't forget Tiki Hut Virtual's coming up. Tiki Hut in-person's coming up. We got great deals out there. I want you here with me. I want to teach you these things in person. I want to love on you. I want you to understand. King Solomon said, meaningless, meaningless, meaningless. Vanity, vanity, vanity. Let me teach you spiritual growth. Let me teach you personal growth. And let me teach you profitable growth. Let's put it all together, right? God has called us to be those warriors. Thank you guys. Have a great day. Tiki Hut. November 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th. 2 full days of teaching in the middle. We get there Wednesday night and we go home Saturday morning. Excursions, lots of fun. You're going to be with me. I'm going to have personal time with you. You're going to come to my personal home. You're going to be at these tiki huts. You're going to see the tiki hut I'm building. You're going to see the tiki hut I already got. We're going to go out on the yacht. We're going to have a lot of fun. And I'm going to pour into you. And I'm going to learn from you. And we're going to understand that if we don't get this stuff right, vanity, 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 it's all just vanity.